All right, class. I wanted to point out something here. I also want to show us our circuit and this thing running today so we can kind of explain what we're trying to code here. I originally think I told you wrong on this button in the orientation of it, but I just wanted to point out that that might need to be flipped in a direction and rotated. But to start with, I'm going to plug this in. I have already finished and uploaded the code, but we're going to walk through that ourselves. And so we end up with our LCD here, and it says pick and len for length. And so if we end up turning our little dial here, we can have space show up A, B, C, D, E, F, G in pick. And I can press this little button and I can have it show up and we can just type whatever random letters. We have letters, we have numbers, and if I just do a quick press of that button, we end up with characters. And when I get all the way to the end, it says full on our line there. So it says full when I try to type another one. And so I have all of those letters up there, and we're kind of between a item there. I even have question mark right there. So it says full. But to clear this message out, all I'm going to do is hold this for a second, and all of a sudden now I've got 0, 0 on len, and so the length, and now I can start typing again. So that's what we're going to end up programming today. And I just wanted to show you that. We're going to end up programming the top line and programming the bottom with live input data from our this, so we can select, and then typing up top on our typewriter. So we're going to jump in the code here, and we'll kind of walk through how we're going to actually code this. All right, class, we'll see if we can do this quick today. Right now, I did a file save as. I saved it as a LCD type because we're building ourselves a little typewriter. And today we have that blanket boilerplate, or whatever you want to call this, page with the void setup and the void loop. What I'm going to do to start is typically you start with just like that, those two, but we're going to end up putting the cursor in front of void there and putting some space here because we have to establish some libraries that we've used before, some other items that we've used before, like the liquid crystal display, I2C, and some of those variables that we put up front before we start going into our code. And so with this project, we're going to include two libraries, and one of them is wire.h, and it comes included with Arduino, and then the other one is liquid crystal I2C, which we've already downloaded from our library manager in a previous video. So you should have that installed. So to start with, we need to do the include, and not that first one. We need to do the one with the brackets there. And we're going to start with the uppercase W-I-R-E, wire.h. And then we need to do another include. And we're including both of these libraries that we've probably used before. I'm pretty sure we used the wire.h as well. And liquid C crystal underscore I2C.h. All right, and so just double checking, liquid crystal. Yep, should be good to go. So we have our two libraries that we're including in this, and we'll end up using a variable from this that we've used before to establish the LCD. And that was, you've seen this before, I'm just doing some enters there, give us some space. And we established that by typing in liquid Q, come on, liquid crystal I2C, and then we name it LCD. I'm going to do LCD lowercase, put some brackets there. And what we have to put here is we have to establish the address, the columns, and the lines. And so this is a 16 by 2 display LCD, and its address we've already used before. We know that is a 1627, and we put a little comma, and then if we establish a 16, comma, and a 2, that establishes our basic LCD callout, right? And so once we do that, the next thing we have to do is establish some integers that'll hold the name and the variable for our pin wiring, for our pinouts in our wiring. So we've done this before. We're going to call this int, and we're going to go pot pin for the potentiometer that wiring that we had, and we plug that into which was A0, A0. Yes, we did. And we can close that line. We can do the same thing here, and we can go int, and we can do the button. We have the button with the underscore pin. I'm going to do all this in uppercase. And that was plugged into D2, so we just call that 2. And so we'll end up using these terms later, and we just establish those terms and set them equal to some number, or A0 in this case. So the next item we have to do is we have to establish our character menu, or character set. And I don't know if we've used this before, but to establish a character and a character set, we can use the term char for character. And we can go char set. And if we use these little brackets like this, just empty like that, we can set this equal to our character set. And to do this, we can do some little quotations and quotes. And we're going to start with a space because we want a space as a character set. And then I'm going to end up doing A, B, C, D, E, F, all the way through the whole entire character set, all the way down. And I'm just going to copy and paste in what I've pasted in my other code. Just kind of cheating here. But you can do the same and just type in all these characters. You should be able to type in a decent amount of other characters, whether that's numbers or symbols like this. This is what I'm going with. Some of these symbols, pretty much everything on the keyboard should be used. It should be okay to plug in, but we'll find out, right? If you plug in anything else, it might not type it for you. But the other thing we have to do here is establish an integer, and we're going to call this char, look at this, uppercase, char set. Len. Len. We set that equal to size of, no space, size of char set. Correct. Okay. -1. This excludes our end marker, and so this will just be our char set length, and we'll use that later on for indexing and so on and so forth. So the next thing we have to establish, I'm trying to rush through this here for you so we don't end up with a 30-40 minute video. We have memory, message memory, and we'll end up using this for message length, and we can call up our message length like we had in our bottom corner when it said len and then a number. And so here we're going to establish two things. We're going to establish a char, and we're going to say message with a lowercase message, and I'm going to say 17. So this is going to be 16 characters plus our end character. So this is 16 chars plus a end character, which is going to look like this, actually, /0. So that's why we have that set to 17. So we have an end character, and we'll use this end character to initiate full and to tell us that we can clear out the message. All right. The other thing we're going to establish here is message length. And that's going to establish our length. I'm going to type that with an ln, uppercase, and set that equal to 0 for now. All right. So the next thing we have to do is we have to deal with a debounce. So these little tiny buttons that we have here, these are just little tiny metal contacts. And these little tiny metal contacts sometimes will pick up like 2, 3, 4, or 5 clicks when you click it once. And to deal with that, we can do some bool and we can do some debounce. So we can wait in a delay slightly so that we only pick up one button press when we press it. And to do that, we're going to end up using the term bool, or the item bool that we've used before. And we're going to say button stable equals high. And then we're going to do this again. And I'm just going to I'm going to come in here and say copy, or Control C and Control V. And I'm going to say here, instead of that, I'm going to say last read equals high. And then we're going to go here and we're going to go we can just go unassigned long, and we're going to last call this D mounts MS. Set that equal to 0 to start with. And then we're going to go another unassigned long. We're going to set this equal to the mounts delay MS. And we'll set that to 30 milliseconds. And we're pretty much there and done for the establishment of these items that we'll use for the debounce. And then a couple more items here, and then we're on to our clearing of our message, and we'll be done. So the last thing we have to do here is a press versus long press. Short press versus long press. The one clears the thing, and one types a character, right? And so that's what we're going to establish right here. And just putting that right here. So we're going to use some variables here to establish this for an 800 millisecond long press and a short press, and some bool for false, and then some indexing lock. Just follow along, do some follow along here, and we'll rush through this. We're going to go an unassigned long, and we're going to go long. I'm going to call this press. Call it press. We're going to underscore milliseconds. And we're going to set that equal to 800. And then we're going to go unassigned long. And we're going to set this as press start MS. Set that equal to 0. All right. And then the final thing, we have a bool. And that's a long press handled. All right. We're going to set that to false. Close that. And then we have an int. And this is press IDX. And I'm going to put this as an uppercase H and an uppercase P. Just because I have that in my other code like that. That's what I established. So I'm going to set this also equal to 0. And that should help us for the long press and short press establishment of variables here. Just adding some comments here. Let's see what I'm doing. All right. All right. So the next thing we're going to do, we're establish our first function. And this is the clear message function. So we're going to establish this little clear message function. This is what this function will do. It'll clear the message in the memory at the top line. It literally just clear the top row. And when we press a long press. So to do this, it'll set the message length to essentially 0, and it will fill the upper place with spaces. That's all we're doing here. So we're going to establish a void. And we're going to call this void clear message. And then I'm going to just put some brackets there, and then I'm going to do some squirrely brackets right this, and I'm going to program right inside that little squirrely bracket right there and that little squirrely bracket right there. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use that variable we just established, mess length equals 0, close it, and then do a little for statement here. For int I equals 0, comma, or no, sorry. I is less than 16. We're going to increase I. So I gets plus plus. And for this, we're going to get the message. We're going to get message I. And we're equal to space this. Put a space in here, and we should be good to go. All right. And then I'm going to say message 16. We're establishing the forward slash 0 here. Make sure that's just like that, / and a 0, and then we can close that line. All right, then we can go LCD dot set cursor. LCD dot set. Is that an uppercase? Yeah. CURSOR. And this is, we're setting the cursor at 0, 0. And then we're going to print to write that spot. And what we're going to print to that is LCD dot print. We're going to print 16 spaces. Actually, don't want that. I want the double quotes. So I want to put 16 spaces here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17 is probably fine. And we're going to close that line. So that's all we need to do here is put 16 spaces. And what that's going to do is now print that for when this statement's true. We're going to be good to go. So that'll be our last indicator right there. Okay, 16 spaces and we're done. It'll jump out of that when we use it. Okay, so we'll end up calling up this void down in our loop void and we'll be good to go. So the next thing we need to do is actually draw to the screen. We need a function that'll actually draw to the screen, and we'll call up this function when it runs it in the loop. So this void that we're going to establish is just for drawing. And so we're going to go void, and we're going to say draw. What did I call this? Screen? Okay, draw screen. And we're going to establish an integer inside this little bracket thing. We're going to call this select. Selected IDX. Let's go lowercase x. All right. And then we're going to do those little squirrely brackets like this. Little curly, whatever you want to call them, squirrely and curly brackets. And we're going to program right inside this little void. This, again, is just drawing to the screen. And so this is just going to be a bunch of LCD print statements. And then we're going to be done here. So this is going to be LCD dot print, or we have to set the cursor first. Set cursor. And we're going to set this 0, 0. Jump out of that, close that. And we're going to do another LCD dot print on this one. And we're going to print the message. All right, so we got to print the message there. All right, and so then with this is top row, it's going to show the message right here. And then we're going to go down and move to the bottom row, and we're going to print a couple things in the bottom row, like we showed before. We're going to print the length, and we're going to show the our indicator, what our pick might be, right? And our selection, right? And so to do this, we're going to use this cursor thing. We have to set it down again, but we don't need it at the cursor of 0, 0. We need it at the cursor of 0, 1, because we're going to drop down 1. And then we're going to say LCD dot print. And this LCD dot print statement is going to hold a quote. So we're going to say, hey, pick, like I had before. It's going to say pick. And then we're going to put that like, hold up, I'm going to go like that. And we're just going to have it say pick like that. And then I'm going to close that. I'm also going to use this again. And now I'm going to print the message right after that pick. I'm not going to do any spaces. I'm just going to put, instead of these quotes, I'm going to say char set. In here, no, not wrong brackets. I want square brackets. And here I'm going to do the select index that we established up top. And that's all we're going to do. So now it's going to print this little thing we have in here. And then it's going to do the char select right here, the selection that we're doing. All right, so then the next thing we're going to print, we're going to do an LCD dot print. And I'm going to go like this. I'm going to do the quotes here. I want to put a space there because we want to space it out after the selection, right? And we could do 1 space. We could do 2 space. Right now, I'm just going to say space, and I'm going to say len. And I'm going to say that, just like that. And I'm going to close that. And then I'm going to do another LCD. No, I'm going to say if. This is the message length. Just follow along here, quick second. It's less than 10. Then do this line. So then do lcd.print. And we'll do it like that, and we'll say 0. And then lcd, otherwise, lcd.print message. There we go. So now it's going to print the message length. If this condition is met, it'll print a 0, right? If it's less than 10, otherwise it'll print this message. So it'll do 0 and then this message. So, all right. So, otherwise it'll do, so it's going to put that 0 in front of it, and then we can do this one. All right. So that's all that's doing is putting the 0, and then if it gets over 10, we're at 16. So then it's going 1, 2, 1, 2. So it's only using up those 2 spaces there. All right. So to finally clear out the leftovers, let's just do an LCD print. And just put a couple spaces there. I did 5. That should fill out the whole entire bottom row, and we should be done. Again, there's our close, there's our line right there. So hopefully you can see this is zoomed in enough. All right. I might do that. I might zoom in here quick. That might help you. I don't know. I just did that mid video. So hopefully that's better. But we're going to go from here, and we're going to establish our final function before we go into the setup. And to do this, we're going to do another void. And we're going to call this type char. And we're going to call this a char C. We're going to call it char C. And so we're establishing a character right there. And then I'm going to do my curly brackets here and put some enters in there. And then this, we're just going to do some brief coding here. What we're trying to do here is this function is going to be typing our character. We're going to put a letter into the next spot in the message, and then increase message length, and then fill the rest of the spaces with space, and then print the full thing above in the top row. So we'll just briefly show full if we hit full. That's what we're going to end up doing at the final part of this. So it'll just be an if statement, a for statement, and an else statement. The if statement and the for statement will be nested inside, or the for will be nested inside the if. All right. So to start this, I'm going to do an if message length. Let's put this in brackets like it's supposed to be. Message length equals, nope, not equals, is greater than 16. This is where we're going to end up establishing the message length increase until this point. All right. Or sorry, is message length less than 16? That's what I meant to say. Less than 16. Curly brackets. Okay, so we're still inside this curly bracket, and now we're programming inside this if statement for curly brackets. Okay, I'm going to say tab. I'm going to say message length, or message, and then I'm inside. But this little character set, I'm going to say message length equals our C we established just before. And we're going to close that line. Next thing we're going to do is increase message length. So plus plus. So message character set equals C. Okay, so we just did that. All right. This will fill the remaining spaces and erase any leftovers. What this for statement is going to do next here. So I'm going to put that right there. And we're going to establish a for here. For int I equals message length. This, I'm going to do I is less than 16. We're going to increase I. So we're going to go I plus plus. Then we're going to say message. This I will equal space here, close. And then we'll end up doing the 16 down here. It's really similar to a for statement we did before. So I'm just going to grab this. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say tab. I'm going to say 16 here. And then we're going to say space. Oh, sorry. Delete. /0 here. And we'll call it a day. Okay. So that's for filling those remaining spots and erasing any leftovers. All right. So we're going to repaint the whole top row at this point. So we're still inside our if statement. And so at this point, we're going to refill our top row with the message. We're going to repaint it in the top right here. This is us for the top row. So we need to set that cursor. Set cursor. And we're going to go like this. And we're going to say 12, 1. Or, no, what am I doing? That's below 0, 0. All right, so we set the cursor at the beginning, and then we're going to LCD print. We need to print the message. So print, and we're going to go like this. We're going to say message. So print the message. And we're done. We're going to jump right out of this if statement. And we're going to go down here and we're going to establish an else. Else just has a basic curly bracket. And our statement goes inside that else. And so this is the establishment of the full. So we're going to go lcd.print. And we need to put full at the end when we hit that. And it'll just flash full for a 200 millisecond delay. And so we're going to do LCD. I'm actually going to print this, but we need to tell it to print to the correct area. So I'm going to say enter here, and I need to establish, hey, set this to 12. All right, so I lost you there for a second. But we need to do the LCD cursor set, and we need to set that to 12, 1. So this is on the bottom row, so one step down. And then we're at 12 in. And that'll right over that little area where we have our numbers set for the length. What we're going to do next here is we need to print there. And we need to print what is full. Let's do it in uppercase. And so we'll type full right there. Clean this up just a little bit. And then after that, we're going to delay that. We're going to just do that for a couple seconds, like 200 milliseconds. Delay that for 200 milliseconds so it just flashes at us. That's what that's going to do. And then right here, we can draw screen. And in here, we can go last. Why is it popping it up? Last index shown. And we already established that, but I don't know why it's not popping up. 0. And then we're establishing. Is this correct? This might be correct. No, I don't think that's correct. Well, we'll do it right now. I don't think that's correct. I think I have that written down wrong. I have pretty sure that's wrong. But that might be right. Just follow along. We'll find out if it shows us an error or not. I don't really remember writing that. All right, it's late. But okay, so we're done. We're done with this else statement. We're jumping out of the else. And we're jumping out of the void here, this void char. We're done with that. So now we've established our voids that we're going to use, our writing, our char type for character select, and typing the one character, and our drawing to the screen, and our clear message. So now we have to establish our setup. And our setup, like we've always done before, we're establishing our pins, we're doing wire begin, we're doing all the turn on the backlight, and we're doing some, in this place, we're going to do a splash, what I call a splash screen. It's like a startup screen. It's a common thing that you kind of do on a little UI interface. User interface is what I'm establishing. UI is for user interface. But we're going to first do that, and then we're going to jump down in the void. And so to take a second, we're just going to jump down here into this void setup. I'm going to back out these comments because we don't need them anymore. And we're going to work right here in this little void. And so this one, as you know, only runs once. And in here, we establish the pin modes. For this, we have a button pin. And we don't have a resistor on this button. So we have to use an input but an input pull up for this case. And so we're going to go input underscore pull up that we've used before. So we can use the onboard resistor. We're going to use wire with an uppercase W, begin, with not an uppercase, begin, we'll close that, and then we're going to establish our LCD. LCD dot initialize. We're going to close that line, and then we're going to go LCD dot backlight, just to turn on that backlight of our LCD. And then we're going to do some stuff we've done before. We've already established this. We want to establish a blank screen to start with. And so I just want to establish that. I'm going to copy that over. We've done this before. We did this up top. It's the same thing we did before. It just clears it out for us. Starts with a blank screen, spaces. That's all that's doing. All right. And then down here, we're going to do the splash startup. Okay. And for this is going to be an LCD.clear. We'll start with that. We'll clear it out. Jump out of there. We'll do an LCD.set cursor. We'll set it at 0, 0. What am I doing? What am I doing? And I'm going to have it say at startup, I'm going to do an LCD.print. Let's see, typing wheel. On the first line, close that out, and then I'm essentially do the same thing, but I'm going to say something on the bottom line. I'm going to drop this down 1 so I can go down 1 line, and I'm going to say, because we're using a potentiometer and a button, I'm going to say pot plus button. All right. And then we're going to delay this because we want this to hold onto the screen for a certain amount of time. And we're going to say 900 milliseconds. So they'll just flash on there, keep on there for 900 milliseconds, and then turn off. And we're going to go LCD.clear to then clear the LCD. And then we'll do our first draw. And so then it'll run the first draw screen, 0. So then that'll run the upper function that we established up top here, draw screen, right after that. So then we're going to jump down into the void, and we'll end up programming this. I'm going to take 2 seconds break here and come right back and program this void. This void is going to be a little complicated, but it's going to be done in a couple steps, and I will explain that. There's one section that is a bunch of nested ifs. So give me 2 seconds, and we'll be right back.